I'm your news reporter, Santiago Blanco, for Carmel High School News. So welcome back. Now on to our next topic for the day, the mysterious death of 20-year-old college student Ana Garcia. She was found dead by her friend Taylor Diaz in her lab where she interns at. Here with us today and helping us learn about this case is Dr. Chala, a famous doctor who is working on the case. So, Dr. Chala, we're going to ask you a couple questions so we can learn more about the case and how Anna died.
Yeah, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Oh, okay. That's fantastic to hear. So, what is the determined manner of death? Could you please support this with some evidence to explain to us and how it supports what you're saying?
Yeah, sure, I can. So we have identified this manner of death as a suicide. So this college student, Ana Garcia, she fell and she hit her head on the table due to the symptoms of overdosing on narcotics. She had a lot of her narcotics for pain medication, and she got dizzy and she fell and hit her head on the table. Now, there's two options for ruling out this death with that information. We have the manner of death, and it could be a suicide or it could be an accident. But I don't believe that someone could take so many narcotics as an accident. That's why we ruled this death as a suicide. Now, we've also looked at her digital, social media accounts, and we can see that she had, let's just not say a great time, past a week or two. She had some problems with her boyfriend and at soccer practice, so that makes sense as to why she would want to commit a suicide.
Oh, wow. To be honest, going into this interview with you, I was not expecting that would be how you guys would determine her death. Okay, our next question for you, Dr. Chala, is what is the determined cause of death for Ana Garcia? Once again, please support this with some evidence and explain to us how it supports the statement you're saying.
Okay, so her death was caused by traumatic brain injury, which is also known as a TBI.
Okay.
That could be a concussion, or it could be something as severe as what we have here, which is basically her brain was bleeding from the inside. She hit her head on the table, and when we looked in her MRI, which is like the scan of her brain, we saw that there was a huge cut on her forehead. There's a bruise on near that as well on her forehead, and that basically relates to the traumatic brain injury. And we think that she, due to overdosing on the narcotics, fell, hit her head on the table, and just got a traumatic brain injury and died from bleeding.
Oh wow! What drug did she overdose on?
Opioids. This is a very common pain medication, especially when you have some sort of injury. Like if you have a headache, you'll take Advil or ibuprofen, for example, and that's kind of a type of opioid. But opioids are more severe kind of pain medications.
Oh.
They're higher
they're like
doses.
more potent.
They're more potent. Yeah, very good word.
Okay.
I would expect that from a journalist.
Thank you. What can I say? I'm a very smart journalist myself. Okay. Coming over here to our second to last question for you, Dr. Chala. We know you're a busy man, so we're not trying to take too much of your time. So, what is the determined mechanism of death for Ana Garcia? Once again, please back this up with some evidence and explain to us how it supports what you're saying.
So our scientists, our group ran what we call a toxicology report, which is where we examine for any sort of toxins, drugs, alcohol, anything that should not be there in the bloodstream that would be like, and normally in a college student, like alcohol or drugs,
Makes sense.
So we know that she overdosed on drugs and opioids, and she specifically hit her head on the shelf, and she fell, and then she started bleeding out. And there's also blood dripping from the shelf, which could have been from the fall. So that's, again, goes back to our manner of death and our cause of death, and they all kind of loop and connect together, and they correlate to one another.
Oh, okay. That is very interesting. Okay, now moving on to our final question here for you, Dr. Chala. What is the time frame that you and your team have come up with for Ana Garcia's death? Once again, like every other question I've asked you here, back this up with some evidence and explain to us how it supports what you're saying.
So, in the field of criminal sciences, we use this thing called the Glassiter equation, which basically you use a person's body temperature, internal temperature, to basically figure out how long ago they died, right? So we know when you're living, you're about 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit inside your body, and in this equation, you take about 1.5 degrees off per hour death.
Okay.
So, so we solved for that unknown. I'm not gonna make it too complicated, but we found that they found her body. She died 13.5 hours ago. Now the person who found her body went into the lab in the morning expecting to work, and he found a dead body. Not what you would expect, but that they found it at 11:30 a.m. in the morning, which makes that minus 13.5 hours, 9 to 11 p.m. And that is logical because we know that she was in the lab working late that night. Looking at the social media account, she was trying to get some work done during the night, and she probably took her pain medication at night, and that caused her to die. Now, we also have some more pieces of evidence to back up this equation to show that it makes sense. So her body was fully stiffened. All her muscles were tight and stiffened, and that's called rigor mortis. And so, in order for the whole body to be stiff, it has to be the person has had to have been dead for at least 12 hours, and that makes sense, and that correlates to the Glasser equation because she was dead at 13.5 hours ago, according to that equation. Now, there were also bugs near her body, which is pretty disgusting.
Yeah, it sounds
But
very gross.
after 24 hours, normally there's hardly any bugs in the body. So it's between that 1 to 24-hour period. And we know since there were bugs on her body, she probably could not have been dead for 24 hours, right? And lastly, her body did not decompose. It did not start decaying yet. And decomposition, decaying normally occurs after about 36 to 48 hours after the time of death, and so obviously it was not after 36 hours, meaning that our Glasser equation does make sense and it sounds logical.
Oh, okay. So you guys have the mechanism, the manner, and the cause of death all figured out. It seems like, and you have a good time frame. Wow, that's impressive. This case hasn't been going on for long, and you were able to figure all that out so fast. Well, thank you for joining me here,
Thank
Dr.
you.
Chawla.
Thank you for having me.
Well, that was Carmel High School News with Dr. Chawla going over Anna Garcia's mysterious death. Thank you for joining us.